Radio Live. It's Tuesday, February the 9th. We're just getting out of Tom Brady week. That's right. You know how we have Shark Week every year? Well, first week of February, I'm declaring it now Tom Brady week because just about every single day in the first week of the month of February is a Tom Brady celebration of when he won a Super Bowl. So I'm declaring it here and now. February 1st through February 7th is officially Tom Brady week, and it should be celebrated across the country because guess what, Mike? He is the greatest of the greatest of the greatest of the greatest. And I don't want to hear otherwise. Actually, we might hear otherwise because we have John Sapochetti on later today, and I can't wait to talk to him about what we saw Sunday night, what we've seen since then, and what we're going to see later. But before we do, I'm contractually obligated to allow Mike to at least speak in this first segment. So we're going to bring him in right now and say, hey, Mike.
La la la! Hey, buddy, how's it going? And
the
bottom line is yeah, it's Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. Tom Brady is still the greatest quarterback, still the greatest football player to ever live. That will not change. I don't care what kind of excuse machine that the national media or the 30 other fan bases in the NFL want to go ahead and conjure up. Not going to change. It is the way it is, buddy. And we're fine with it up here. I don't know why everybody else is having such a difficult time with this.
Well, again, a lot of it's denial, a lot of it's just years of frustration, which, to some extent I understand. If you spent, I'm 34, and I've fortunately been on the good side of Tom Brady, so I've watched him flourish over the last 20 years or so. But if you're a team like, I don't know, the Packers or the Bills or the Jets or some of these other teams, the Steelers, teams that had really good runs, the Saints. Not so much some of the Saints, not so much that there isn't so much that deep hatred from the Saints fans, not yet at least. But all these fan bases that have in one form or another, you can add the Chiefs to that mix now, have one way or another been cost, quote unquote, whether it's legit or whatever, a championship because of the Patriots. And by legit, I mean, did they literally get beaten in the Super Bowl, or is there this narrative now that, had this one play happen, automatically, that team would have won the next game had they not lost to the Patriots, so on and so forth. I.e., if D Ford didn't line up offsides, they'd have 3 straight Super Bowls. Well, no, that doesn't make sense. But There's fan bases out there still doing this. I mean, and again, it's I engage with these people now. It was kind of the same before, but now it's just such a joke. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's one person I hate that I've given him attention this morning, but releasing their top 40 quarterback list, and if it's anything but an attention grab, then I feel really bad because then this person legitimately thinks that Drew Brees is a greater quarterback than Tom Brady, and I'm saying yes, you're entitled to your opinion, sure. But it doesn't mean you're right. And in some cases, in this case, you're objectionably wrong. You can have your opinion all you want. You can say whatever. You can go say the Earth's not flat, the Earth's not round, the Earth is just a giant rhombus, for all I care. You'd be wrong, but you're entitled to that opinion, okay? So to me, that's kind of the era that we're in right now. And it's just, I don't know, the absurdity that I think we're going to reach by the time next season starts. And again, you mentioned this tweet the other day, and I wish I should have looked it up because I also saw saw this tweet that you were referencing, that everyone in unison agrees that Tom Brady's the GOAT until next week when everyone conveniently forgets and we start the whole cycle over. Like, all of a sudden, this is a guy that's won only 3, and can he make that 4th one to tie him with the... You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, Mike. It's ridiculous.
No, it's true. It really, really is ridiculous. And it's only going to continue. Like you said, I mean, now we're starting to see the Mahomes apologists come out and talk about everything that he had to go through in this game. Now we're starting to see talk about who's more athletic, who's the greater athlete. It amazes me. It amazes me that rings were so important until Tom Brady started winning rings and started ruining people's Super Bowl parties. I am convinced one of these days, folks, please let us know, let our listeners know if I should write a book someday about how All of this Tom Brady hate started with a group of fans that were really just completely ticked off that this guy ruined their Super Bowl parties year after year after year. He made your buffalo wings taste a little bit more sour. Maybe he made your Tostitos stale. I don't know what it was. Maybe the guacamole curdled a little bit too quickly. But you know what? Bottom line is this guy just consistently wins year after year after year. Tom Brady has won Super Bowls in 4 different presidential administrations. That should tell you something. I saw that fact yesterday, and that completely blew my mind. It really, truly did. He's won it during the Bush administration, during the Obama administration, during the Trump administration, and now during the Biden administration. It's amazing to me that a quarterback is able to do it. And he was drafted during the Clinton administration. Think about that. I mean, really, just for a second. I mean, it's amazing. It really, really is amazing what this guy's done. And it really amazes me the depths to which people will sink to pull a statistic out of their where. It's a family show. I'm not going to get vulgar here, but pull something out of their where to try to prove one iota of, on this date, on this field, at this moment, he was less than up to par. He wasn't perfect in that moment. So see, he's not the GOAT of all. He's not the greatest of all time. Spare me. That's
been one of my favorite things that have popped up the last couple of days because, look, I mean, I don't like necessarily these cross-sport comparisons because, again, I mean, if you think the greatest quarterback discussion is murky and full of just nonsense, well, comparing athletes across different sports can become even greater of a mess than that. But at the same time, I can't sit there and just this is the new thing coming out now, and I feel like this is the new level that we're reaching to. Now it's a guy that has lasted 21 years in the NFL and got drafted by 2 professional organizations in 2 different professional sports in North America is somehow just not athletic. So now we've resorted to comparing, Tom Brady can't be the greatest athlete because Serena Williams existed, or Roger Federer existed, or Simone Biles. She's won so many. You know what I say, Mike? There's no way that any of those could be the greatest athlete of all time when Milo of Croton, ancient Greek athlete, existed. 30-year career, fighter, wrestler, everything, Mike. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I heard Leonidas could throw the shot pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. No, I tweeted that. I tweeted that yesterday. I thought it was a lot funnier than I think some people thought, but that's kind of what we're doing because people are throwing up. Well, look, Serena Williams has 36 major titles. Well, they have 4 majors a year. They have 1 Super Bowl a year. It's I get it. I mean, you're going to resort to anything is basically my point. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say Tom Brady's a greater athlete than Serena Williams or Serena Williams is a greater athlete. They're both great athletes. If you even suggest that Tom Brady is not a great athlete, then again, I have no use for your opinion because that shows me right away.
No, and you know what? Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know what? It is so objectively obvious that Tom Brady is the greatest of all time when it comes to pro football that now the only argument that you can use is a completely subjective one to compare him across sports, to compare him to a Michael Jordan, to compare him to a Serena Williams, to compare him to a Roger Federer, a Tiger Woods, things of that nature. Those types of comparisons I've never put any stock into because it's so difficult to quantify what fun. Michael Jordan meant to a basket. It's very fun. It's good. It's nice when you're sitting on a bar stool and talking somewhere about people and going back and forth or, having conversations on talk radio between 2 and 6 p.m. up here in New England. But in any case, regardless of that, they're fun arguments, but there's no quantification of it. You can't do that. There is an empirical measuring stick to prove just how far and above Tom Brady is when it comes to players that have ever played in the NFL. If that doesn't meet your argument anymore and you can't use that argument anymore, you'll stoop to whatever level that you can. What you're seeing right now is national level media squirming and national level fan squirming at its absolute worst. You can't use the argument that he is a system quarterback anymore. He's won now in 2 conferences under 2 head coaches, 2 completely different systems. Can't use that anymore. It doesn't hold water. You can't use the argument that he can't win without Bill Belichick. He won this year without Bill Belichick. So show me another one. He had an easy road. He has a cakewalk division in the AFC East.
Literally every narrative.
Exactly. Last I checked, he played in a division this year with Drew Brees, who's some rank higher than Brady, which I'm more of a fan of Brees, I think, than you are. I do believe he belongs top 10. I don't believe he belongs at the top of the quarterback list. That list is Tom Brady. I'm sorry, folks. Yeah. But the last I checked, this was a pretty good division that they played in. He never beat anybody worth his salt to get to the Super Bowl. Well, this year he not only went through
former Super Bowl MVPs.
Not to mention a number 2 ranked defense with the Washington football team that everybody seems to overlook. That is a beast of a defense. Maybe Washington had some growing pains, some bumps in the road when it came to quarterback play, offensive play. I'll give you that. But that defense is legit. That could have, if they had a solid offense on the other side, that Washington team would have been a beast this year to try to get through. So I don't want to lessen that, but he went through Aaron Rodgers. He went through Drew Brees. He went through Patrick Mahomes. So now you don't have those arguments anymore. You can't whine and cry about Brady. All you can do is bring up a cherry-picked statistic that you want to go and prove that, Brady is not. You can show the flat-out picture of Mahomes making that, which, it's impressive. I mean, he didn't complete the pass, but, nobody cares about that.
Well,
it's an athletic. It is impressive to see what he did. It was not taken away from that.
It was, people real quick, they keep saying, oh, it was a drop. They dropped it in. You know who dropped it? The Bucs. That went right through Devin White's hands. I mean, in reality, look, the fact that he got the ball off on that throw is, it's great. I mean, it looks like a shortstop. I mean, he's a former baseball player. I get it. That part's impressive. But we've seen it. We talked about it a little bit before we got on the air. The apology train has started. And now people are gravitating towards this. Oh, this is the greatest incompletion. What the fuck are we talking about here? And I didn't swear there, folks. I self bleeped myself.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, you like that? I'm pretty good at that. No, what are we talking about here? Are we going to start ranking incompletions? You know what, then? You know what the greatest Super Bowl incompletion is? Tom Brady to Randy Moss in Super Bowl 42. The ball traveled 70-some-odd yards in the air and dropped right in his basket, only to be, just deflected away at the last moment. So let's stop that silliness. Patrick Mahomes did not play good. He had a couple moments. He accumulated some yards there at the end, but he, along with the rest of his team, I'm not putting it all on Patrick Mahomes, so before you get all defensive and say, oh, yeah, you blame. No, he did not play well. By any stretch of the imagination, he did not play well. Everyone keeps, focusing on the very last moment. Well, guess what? There was a moment in the first half where he was 1 for, 8, 9 passing? And they were 0 for 8 at one point in completing passes on third down. That's not good. That is not good. No. And there's no rhyme. Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason for you that you can make an excuse that he played well. I saw someone try to sit there and tell me that he played better than Tom. No, stop it. I'm not even. I can't do that. I can't do that. That there is a limit that I reach, and I think that's it.
People are going to do that, and it's only going to continue. Apparently, according to Ian Rappaport this morning, Patrick is undergoing foot surgery on turf toe. Apparently, that's the latest that I'm seeing from him. I'm looking at this right now. A torn plantar plate in his foot. That is turf toe. That's a pretty. To me, that's a little bit more of an not egregious, but a little bit more of a serious way to say that he did in fact have turf toe. Rehab apparently several months, expected to make a full recovery. Dr. Robert Anderson will be performing the procedures. So there you go. There was a holdback, and turf toe is not anything to shake a stick at. I mean, that is painful. No, without any question.
Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with a gash in his throwing hand. So again, I mean, I'm not trying to minimize what Patrick Mahomes.
No, not to mention cracked ribs.
So look, people are going to use every excuse in the book, but the reality is Patrick Mahomes just lost the Super Bowl by more points combined than Brady has in 3 Super Bowls. And think about this, for all the slack I mean, what have we heard for the last year and a half, especially? Oh, Tom Brady only won a Super Bowl by 13 points. He only put up 13 points. He only managed 14 against the Giants. Well, guess what? In every one of those losses, the Patriots had a lead late in that game and were very much alive in that game. Specifically, those two Giants games. The Eagles won, you know, the one against the Eagles he lost, he only happened to throw for 500 yards. So this loss, on top of, well, playing poorly 75% of the game against the 49ers, well, guess what? You know what Patrick Mahomes is? He's kind of turning into Peyton Manning a little bit. If you think about it. You know, like his two Super Bowls have not been, I mean, his saving grace is the final moments of last year's Super Bowl, when he was able to help bring the Chiefs back, and he will always have that, and I'm not taking that away from him. But for, what, 7 of 8 quarters of Super Bowl play, he's been a subpar quarterback, and you cannot convince me otherwise. And that's not to say he's going to go all of a sudden spiral out of control. No, my hope is, out of all of this, especially when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, is that people have finally start to put his career in a more appropriate, in more appropriate context. This idea that we've been trying to push his case for the greatest of all time, he's on pace to be the greatest of all time. I've been saying this all year. What happens if Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl? His pace gets set way back, because that means he didn't win the Super Bowl. And it just so happens that he lost it to Tom Brady. And on top of that, it was in a blowout by more points than Tom Brady has lost in 3 Super Bowls. So that's why it was so silly to suggest such an early part of his career that he's on pace to do something like this. I bring it up at exhaustion throughout the season. If a quarterback throws 11 touchdowns through the first 2 games of the season, no one in their right mind will sit there and legitimately say he's on pace to throw 88 touchdowns, because you understand that, yes, although technically that puts you on pace to do that over the course of a 16-game season, it's not realistic. And in this case, it's the same exact thing, because what Patrick Mahomes is trying to do is essentially throw 88 touchdowns in a 16-game season to catch Tom Brady. And that's what the hill he's trying to climb. And as much as one Super Bowl loss isn't going to kill your greatness, it absolutely kills his hope to be the quote-unquote greatest quarterback of all time, even this early on in his career, because the mountain is so, in my opinion, and I think it's a legitimately safe assumption, that this gap of success is never going to be overcome. And that's just how it is, so...
Yeah, absolutely. No, completely agreed. A little bit of sad breaking news this morning in the NFL, just reported just a few moments ago by ESPN's Chris Mortensen. Legendary NFL coach Marty Schottenheimer, at the age of 77, peacefully passed away with his family at his side on Monday, February 8th, 2021, Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where the family resides. We all know, we saw the reports earlier this week that Marty had been battling Alzheimer's since 2014. And just a terrible, terrible disease. And one of the true legends, one of the true greats. Having covered the Chargers, I can tell you the reverence with which he was held in the Chargers organization for so many years. He was coach of the Chargers for 5 seasons, obviously longest tenure Kansas City Chiefs coach for 10 seasons, coached with the Cleveland Browns for 5, and of course the Washington football team for 1 season. So condolences to the Schottenheimer family. It's definitely sad news this morning. 77 is, unfortunately not. That's not an old age anymore, and that's it's definitely tough for them. And Alzheimer's is such a terrible disease, and the way to lose someone, it's never a good way. But that's definitely sad news this morning. So our condolences to the Schottenheimer family. Something I didn't realize, as a player, played for the Buffalo Bills from 65 to 68. Also played for a season for our beloved Boston Patriots as well, from 1969 to 1970. So condolences to the Schottenheimer family. We definitely lost a great one in the NFL today.
No, absolutely, and that's sad news, and certainly something that, you're right, I did see the news last week, and he had been battling this for a little while, so definitely sad news to have to hear this morning, especially after we've lost a few athletes over the last what it feels like last couple weeks or so. So
yeah.
We do have in brighter news, we do have John Sapochetti joining us here soon. So we're going to continue our quarterback discussion. But Mike, I did want to we brought up some 80s music yesterday. This is a song I was thinking about, my friend. And how appropriate, too. Someone who's a proponent of Aaron Rodgers, of Patrick Mahomes, and all the new age young quarterbacks. He's constantly advocating for these guys. Not that he's not a Tom Brady fan, but he does do a good job of kind of, what do you say, rolling with the punches when it comes to taking L's on this show. And, appropriately, we brought up this song yesterday, and if there's any king of 80s soundtrack music, especially Van Damme music, it's got to be this. So, John Sapochetti, he's about to sit here and roll with the punches right now. You ready? How you doing, John?
Good. I hope you remember that I actually picked the Buccaneers to win. Last week,
I did.
I was leaning towards Kansas City, but then as the week went on, and I think I talked with Mike when I was on his podcast, and certainly I think with Cat on the Sap and Cat podcast, and then by game time when I tweeted out my picks, I felt strongly that Tampa Bay was going to win, and it played out the way I thought it would, with their pass rush being unstoppable. I didn't think they'd hold Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes to 9 points, and felt that the Buccaneers' balance on offense would be perfect to dent that Kansas City defense. And at that point, I said, I'm not betting against Tom Brady at this point. Look, the guy's won 4 Super Bowls in the last 7 years. The one he lost, he threw for 505 yards. So why would you bet against him in this biggest game?
Well, and to be honest, we on a serious note, we obviously we obviously talked about some of the key issues that could
7.
I haven't played that yet today. I'm going to hammer that for the next year until he wins number 8. I'm going to have to find another soundbite. But
oh my God, oh boy, this is going to be unstoppable, Mike. We're going to have to form our own little podcast that just talks reasonable stuff.
Yeah. John,
just think about this. I get them. You get them 1 day a week. I get them 5 days a week.
Boy,
I was gonna say it's almost. I opened the show yesterday, John, with this, and you might actually appreciate this soundbite that I'm about to play for you. But I asked Mike a very simple question. After Sunday, how many Super Bowl championships or Super Bowl rings does Tom Brady have?
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6.
So, I figured you're a big LeBron guy, so you appreciate that. But no, we talked about in all seriousness, the one of the biggest keys to this was the offenses were relatively a wash. I mean, again, if you want to sit there and say, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes is better," go ahead. I'm going to say Tom Brady's better, and in my opinion, I think I win that debate. But that's not what's the issue. The issue is the offenses weren't that dissimilar, so I don't think there was any distinct advantage between the two. And the biggest advantage came, on one of the Bucs' biggest strength on the defensive line. And I thought too many people were just chalking up the issues to, Patrick Mahomes will do his magic. And look, we saw him run around. We all know the stats, 400 some odd yards scrambling. Some of that was necessity. Some of that kind of, one of my criticisms and some of the criticisms towards guys like Aaron Rodgers is sometimes you rely on that a little bit too much and you put yourself in those situations. Like, his offensive line did not play well. I'm not going to sit there and make excuses for that, but there were a lot of instances where Patrick Mahomes did not help his offensive line. And by that, I mean, sometimes it's nice when you run backwards and do these little like pirouettes and everything like that because, maybe it buys you a little bit more time. But then there's a lot of instances where that type of just frantic running around isn't necessarily necessary, and it makes the offensive lineman's job that much more difficult trying to somehow see behind them and be able to judge where he's going and everything like that. So,
Shaq Barrett spent more time in the backfield than the Kansas City running backs. I mean, they couldn't block him. And I think a lot of this has to fall onto coaching as well. on 92% of their plays, they had 4 or 5 wide receivers out in the pattern, which means they were strictly using 5 blockers. I think Andy Reid was in a fog on Sunday, and maybe what happened with his son and that 5-year-old girl who we all pray for her life, that, maybe that weighed on him, but they made no adjustments.
Nope.
Bring in a 6th lineman, chip your tight end, run the football.
Block Kelsey.
Also they were in a too high safety for most of the game, daring Kansas City to run. And Kansas City was efficient running the football. Even when they came out in the third quarter, they ran the football efficiently and then quickly went back to the pass. Sometimes what happens is when you have a toy like Patrick Mahomes, you want to use it rather than, make it idle and let him just kind of pick his spots throughout the game. I wonder if Mahomes has the freedom to check down and to run plays. I would assume after 3 years in the league and how great he is that he does have that. And again, give that defense a ton of credit. Look, in the NFC Championship game, they were outstanding as well. I can proudly say now that my guy Aaron Rodgers played pretty damn well in the NFC Championship game, put 26 points on the board against that Tampa defense. And if he makes 2 or 3 more throws that he normally makes, they probably win the game and put 35 on the board. And let's not forget that Aaron was sacked 5 times in that game. I mean, that pass rush is legit, and they don't have to send extra rushers. That defense is outstanding. But no, we're here to compliment Tom Brady, because to do what he has done with that organization is just unfathomable. I mean, it really is. This would almost be like LeBron saying, you know what, I'm going to go join the Knicks and I'm going to make them a contending team.
Knicks.
Although
even LeBron.
I don't think LeBron or Tom Brady could fix the Knicks, right? Maybe when they retire, they'll buy the Knicks and figure out what to do.
Yeah, move them somewhere else.
Get them out of New York. Maybe go to the Bronx, right? Because you got the Brooklyn Nets, and maybe it'd be the Bronx Knicks. But yeah, I mean, what he's done with that organization, and they had talent. We all agreed on that. On both sides of the ball. Their defense was top 5 the second half last year. And just look at the players, man. I mean, what would you give up to have Devin White playing on your team? That guy is just a monster. And the thing is, that's where the league is going now, with linebackers that can cover. Devin White, Levante David. That's something that I think Bill Belichick, if he was watching the game on Sunday, and I speculate he was, could see that this is where the league's going. You need linebackers that can cover because Levante Davis, Devin White, they just do a fantastic job covering tight ends and backs out of the backfield, and that's something that they took away from Kansas City.
And one of the things, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was talking about it last week. We talked on this show, on a couple Packers and Chiefs podcasts, all that fun stuff we did last week. I said, look, these linebackers can cover the flats on this team. So it's not going to be an easy time. And we saw really none of that from the Chiefs. This misdirection, these reverse, those type of plays, they were pretty much non-existent. Now, again, once you get out of your comfort zone, and they kind of fell behind, I don't want to say they fell behind early, but after both teams kind of had a couple feel-out drives, Tampa scored, and it was kind of, the only thing that stopped them from scoring on every drive was a great play on 4th down by the Chiefs defense on the goal line. So we're talking about an inch difference between this game being a blowout before the halftime was over. But you're right. Look, I mean, to do what Brady has done, and I think. And we've talked so much about him and other quarterbacks, and there's so many things that you just cannot put into numbers, you cannot quantify, and you heard it from so many different players. This, especially with this team, because I think with so many different teammates, I think these comments resonate a little bit more, and without Bill Belichick obviously around. But the Glazers talked about it, Bruce Arians talked about it, the players talked about it. They were a talented team that didn't know how to win. And Tom Brady came in, and not his presence alone helped. Don't get me wrong. Just his presence, at this point in his career, will bring a certain attitude. But it was his actions. It was, these guys that have been in the league and have watched him from a distance, in awe that he would take time with each and every player. And I know it seems like a lot of this stuff is said like cliches or hyperbole, all that stuff. But, like, when it comes to Brady, I believe it. So, like, when people sit there and say he texted everyone saying, we will win on Sunday, I believe that. And I think for his teammates to see that and to know, yeah, this isn't just a guy saying this. This is a guy who's won more than anyone else saying this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge. And the Bucs played like it. They played with that confidence. So not only does he bring a tangible advantage to the football field, like physically, play by play, and look, I thought one of the best captures we got in that game was one of the side shots of him screaming towards the sidelines, no, we're doing the same thing. I'm surprised that hasn't been brought up more by some of the national talking heads. But to me, right there, that he's running that team. And this isn't a knock on Byron Leftwich, because I think he's done a phenomenal job working with Tom. I think Bruce Arians has done a great job working with Tom. That tells me that they listen to him, and he has such an impact not only on the football field and off the football field. And at this point, I said it yesterday. I hope look, Mahomes, on pace to be the GOAT conversation. That's over. Like, if you want to bring that up again in 10, 15 years, we'll consider it. But right now, it's over. There's no reasonable argument you can make right now.
We've got to play it out. I mean, it's just
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and
any of this stuff has to be played out. I mean, when Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl and then won two more over a 2-year period. I mean, he won in 01, 03, and 04. We never really got into the GOAT conversation. First of all, it was never a GOAT conversation.
And it would be a far more legitimate one than it would be today.
Well, because of the winning. And by the way, the GOAT means one, greatest.
Yeah.
It's a declarative statement.
Not multiple GOATs.
No, there's only one GOAT. And I think I want to also compare Brady to some basketball players. And surprisingly, it's not going to be LeBron James, but it's going to be Magic Johnson. I got to sit courtside a lot in the 80s for a lot of those Lakers-Celtics battles. I was, covering the NBA for ESPN for the 80s, and in the finals I got to sit courtside during the regular season. And there were times I'd see Magic Johnson literally lift up his teammates. Like, AC Green was not a great player, but he was a really good role player with the Lakers. And this one play really stands out to me. Magic Johnson's driving to the basket, kicks it out to AC Green in the corner. It may have been a 3-pointer, may have been a 2-pointer. It didn't take 3-pointers back then all that much. And the first words out of Magic's mouth as soon as the pass was on the way to AC was, AC, you're going to make it. I could hear it because it was like literally 10 feet from me. And I was like, wow. And AC Green drilled it. Just that confidence that when the best player goes out to a role player and gives him that confidence, that's immeasurable, right? Because a lot of times you'll hear stories of, they kick it out to AC Green, he misses it, and he's going to get a glare from the teammates. I mean, I'm sure Michael Jordan did a lot of that early in his career. I think when Michael learned to trust his teammates is when he started to win. That's something Brady's had right from the get-go. And can I just give you this real quick story, because it's going to be porn for you. It's going to be porn for you, Ian. And it comes from, believe it or not, Nick Wright. And it's very complimentary of Tom Brady. So you may want to use this as a promo going forward. Remember, we've discussed that Tom Brady has had 2 Hall of Fame careers. Well, after Sunday, I'm going to make the case, or at least Nick Wright made the case, and I'm going to agree with Nick. He did 3 Hall of Fame careers. And you divide it into 7-year increments, right? Because he's been in the league 21 years. So say 2000, I know he didn't play that year, but let's just play along with this. 2000 to 2006, Brady won 3 Super Bowls, 5 division titles, was the ultimate winner. He accomplished more in that 7-year stretch than Troy Aikman accomplished his entire career. Troy Aikman's a Hall of Fame quarterback. The middle 7-year stretch, where Brady didn't win a Super Bowl but got to 2, won a couple of league MVPs, he accomplished more in that 7-year stretch than Dan Marino accomplished in his entire career. Again, a top 10 quarterback of all time, certainly first ballot Hall of Famers, remember. The last 7 years, Brady has won 4 Super Bowls, gone to a 5th, won a league MVP. In that 7-year stretch, he's accomplished as much as Joe Montana did in his entire career. And Montana's considered by most of us the second greatest quarterback of all time. Brady's had 3 separate Hall of Fame careers. That's nuts.
Yeah, and look, I did see that because I was curious, because I was like, all right, how are some of these guys going to react to this? Because we know some people, and that's their shtick. It's got to be anti-Brady, but at this point it's almost exhausting if I were that person to try to keep up with it. I mean, at least in some way, I of course agree with Nick, and the way he put it with the, to compare it to Hall of Fame quarterbacks, I think it resonates more with people because, you can look at the numbers and say, oh, well, maybe, but then you actually, say, oh, wow, that was the Troy Aikman. I think he worded the Troy Aikman phase, the Dan Marino phase. And then again, and I agree with him, as crazy as it sounds, the most astonishing thing is this last one, which is arguably the greatest career from 2014 till now for any quarterback in the history of the league. So, look, there's not enough praise that you can heap upon Tom Brady. Do I ever think that in the history of this sport that there will never be another player like him? No, because again, I don't know the future. But I'm telling you right now, there's not a single person that's playing in the league that is quote unquote again on pace. And I think ultimately, this hopefully will be a good thing. And I tried to make this point on our FPC Chiefs podcast with Braden Holochek yesterday, that I hope the perspective of Mahomes gets back to what it should be. And I think that's comparing himself, to himself. Because right now I think it's a little unfair not only to, heap this type of not only pressure, but just title on top of him when he's played so little time. And then eventually that opinion gets distorted. So, I at least try to keep myself centered when it comes to Mahomes, but like there are people who are going to get so sick and tired of the narrative of him being the greatest that they're going to eventually think he sucks. And he doesn't. He doesn't suck.
Right.
He's going to have a great career. And this isn't cliche. I know every team says it. Every player, coach, commentator says, "Oh, they'll be back. They'll be back." No, I actually do believe the Chiefs will get back to at least another Super Bowl. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, they're easily going to go to multiple." No, I don't know. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks haven't been back.
No,
Aaron Rodgers and the Packers haven't been back. So I can't sit there and assume that. I just hope that moving forward, we can look at Patrick Mahomes' career in a more reasonable fashion and watch it develop over the course of what I think is going to be a very nice career. And at the end of that, then we can sit there and say, you know what? He was a top 5 quarterback combined with what he did on the field and what he did off the field. Top 5 quarterback. We're just not there yet. From a Chiefs perspective and from his perspective, sometimes it's good to be punched in the mouth. Sometimes it's good to get humbled. And I think maybe not outwardly they weren't displaying this. In some cases they were. But this Chiefs team was very cocky. Very matter of fact, we have so much talent, we're just going to walk on the field and win. And teams don't forget some of those actions. Case in point, Antoine Winfield Jr., the best unsportsmanlike penalty I've ever seen in my life. I was all for it. Because he remembered the backflip. He remembered the peace sign. Well, where was it this week? So yeah, I hope. Again, we've talked about it. I think we all have a similar view as to the grand scheme of things, the hierarchy of quarterbacks in the history of this game. I do think if you want to sit there and do the cross sport thing, I think there is a legitimate case if you want to sit there and say he's now the Tom Brady, not the Michael Jordan. Because look, hey, he's got more rings than Michael Jordan. And you know what's happening though, John? Some of those same Jordan people, see, this is where I'm going to lean on your side. See, I like Michael Jordan, but I like Tom Brady more. Those same Jordan people are saying, well, he was perfect. He was 6-0. Well, great.
Yeah, well, that means 7-3 is greater than 6-0. I mean, this isn't win percentage. I mean, when you get to 10 of these games and you win 7, that's better than 6-0. That's why I always push back when people say, well, Jordan was 6-0 and LeBron's 4-6. Well, you know what? If LeBron wins 2 more titles, they both have 6.
Well,
and LeBron would have gone to 6 more finals. Treat it like the Olympics.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'd rather have a silver medal than no medal at all. So Brady has 7 golds and 3 silvers. That's better than just 6 golds. He's got 1 more gold and 3 more silvers. So he's got more medals than Michael Jordan. It's tough to compare only because the basketball player, especially when we're talking about Jordan and LeBron, they were also phenomenal defenders. So, they in a sense, I understand that the quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. it's also incredibly dependent, right? I mean, you need your offensive line to block, you need receivers to run the right route, et cetera, et cetera. You need a good defense. Basketball, a player can take the game over because he can take every shot if he so chooses. So it's tough to compare because, LeBron's signature moment is a block, right? I mean, the chase down block of Andre Iguodala in Game 7 in the 2016 finals. And people forget Jordan's signature shot, the walk-off against Utah in the 98 finals. At the other end of the floor, he stripped Karl Malone of the basketball. Then he just took it down, cleared out, hit the game winner. It is tough to compare. But the quarterback has such a say. Yeah,
I just want to say, and this isn't like I agree. Like I agree with you. I think maybe you're getting into this point, but I think that I kind of had a realization. Kind of going back to what I said about just his impact off the field and what he can do, just his presence alone. And I think we agree that I don't want to say winning's easy, but to win a championship in basketball, it's a little bit easier. Yes, because it's smaller, so it's more star dependent. But I could almost in the same way say it's more difficult for one person to be a great leader amongst 53 different men on doing a multitude of different things and consistently get those guys to buy in because it's the coach, it's this, and does Brady play defense? No, but he goes up against this defense in practice. And he talks to these defenders. He spends time with these defenders, and he helps them. And this is out of their own mouth. It helps them become better. And
sure.
So I would absolutely. I agree with everything you're saying. I would just say to counter that, I would say maybe as much as football requires so many other different moving parts. The fact that this one person, and again, it's not all on this one person, but I think we understand the impact he has from the horse's mouth themselves, the players. Yep. What he has
absolutely
just, across the board. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
He's the ultimate force multiplier. He's the ultimate force multiplier. He just makes everybody better. And also the fact that in football, you're one and done. Yeah. Basketball, even the Lakers last year, the first two series, they got down 1-0. Well, they had the opportunity to come back, and they won the next 4 games and moved on to the next series. So in basketball, you could lose the first game of a series, or in the case of LeBron and the Cavaliers, they were down 3-1 in 2016, came back and won 3 straight. Football, it's one and done. So that's what amazes me about Brady in comparison to Peyton Manning, who had a lot of one and dones. My guy Aaron Rodgers has a lot of win one, lose one, which I guess is better than one and done. Brady just is always in the conference championship game at the minimum.
He's got a lot of bronze.
And then he goes to the Super Bowl. Well, yeah, I mean, just incredible. He's the medal man. Maybe that's another nickname you can have for him. But yeah, no, it's a fascinating conversation. And I've said this a million times. It is the most unlikely great career in the history of sports. Right?
I mean, really because all these started to get turned on by.
Whoa. Okay, Mike. All right. I know you're chomping at the bit to get into this conversation, but.
Michael brings more sense to this conversation.
You just couldn't help yourself, could you? You just had to do it. Yeah. See what I have to deal with, John. This is what I have to deal with on a daily basis. Yep. Exactly.
That's it. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for Ian to start to compare Brady to FDR. That might be the next comparison.
I don't know if you.
Well, where is it? Somebody. I did see this. I actually did see this on Super Bowl Sunday after the win. There was somebody that had Mount Rushmore, and it looked like Brady's face was like right then. They were like, "Oh, there we go. There's the 5th face. There we go."
Here's where we get crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I've seen the Boston or the Mount Rushmore of sports, and it was, I believe, I think they put Jordan or Brady and Willie Mays. I mean, those are all fascinating discussions.
I'd say Brady's 100% on there now.
I would say so. Yeah, the only other football player I'll put in the conversation with him is Jim Brown.
Yeah.
Because he dominated his sport. I mean, the guy led the league in rushing 8 out of 9 years, averaged well over 5 yards a carry. I mean, he was a freak, and I love the way he retired. He was on a movie set in Italy, and he just called the Browns and said, "I'm all set. I'm all done." And I think he was just 30 years old. So those are really the only guys. And if you want to wiggle in Jerry Rice, because Jerry Rice had 2 Hall of Fame careers, and if you want to throw a couple of defensive guys in, but the quarterback's the most important position, and he's the best. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's no question. I will push back, and look, my first sports idol, my boyhood idol, was Bobby Orr. I will push back on Orr being the greatest hockey player of all time. I think he's the third greatest hockey player of all time behind Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky. I mean, Wayne Gretzky is the consensus greatest player of all time. I get into a nuanced debate that I would take Mario Lemieux over him. But yeah, I mean, to put Orr as the greatest hockey player is obviously very parochial on the part of whoever put this Mount Rushmore up. And you can make a case for Bill Russell with if we're going championships, then Bill Russell is the guy to represent basketball. But most would put Jordan. Some of us, me included, would put LeBron there. And as far as baseball, you know where I stand on that. I think Barry Lamar Bonds is the greatest player ever. Yeah, I mean, to talk about a guy that impacted a team. I mean, Jeff Kent won an MVP playing in Barry Bonds' lineup. The amazing thing about Barry Bonds, and sorry to go down this rabbit hole, but when his name comes up, I get very defensive. and since you agree with me, that's a good thing. But he has never played with a Hall of Fame player in his entire career. Never played with a Hall of Fame player in 20 years. So he never really had protection in the lineup or really a great pitching staff, and to do what he did was pretty amazing. I know he may have had some help in other ways, but you still got to hit the ball.
So did a lot of people during that era.
Right, exactly.
Baseball.
The guy throwing to him were on it too.
Exactly, except for like Pedro. So far, that's why I think. Right. That's why I think Pedro's. I mean, he was doing this again. Well, hey, whatever. But I don't know if you saw my tweet. I brought this up earlier. Again, this is me fishing for more compliments because I thought this was very funny in my eyes, but apparently not so much in anyone else's. But I compared Brady to Milo of Croton, ancient Greek athlete, 30-year career. Because again.
Wow.
Yeah, well, hey, people. It was more tongue in cheek because I liked you. You came out with a column earlier this year, Goat of Goats, which maybe it gets a little updated, now that post Super Bowl, but
okay.
I'm not necessarily for the cross sport comparison. I think it's so like with you, like you say, it just gets so murky. It gets so convoluted and just. It's a rabbit hole that I mean, we can't even have a legitimate quarterback conversation. Not us, but I'm saying just in general, let alone a cross-sport athlete. But I do kind of find it ridiculous when people are like, there's no way Brady, who's lasted 21 years in the NFL and got drafted by 2 professional organizations and 2 professional leagues, is not an athlete because Serena Williams once there. Look, I'm not saying anything bad about Serena Williams, and she may be better, but people are reaching here, and like saying that it's impossible. We get it all. It's impossible that Tom Brady could be a great athlete. It's impossible because Michael Phelps existed or Serena Williams. That's why I was kind of tongue in cheek saying, well, Milo of Croton existed, thousands of years ago, and you can't tell me that the denial of Tom Brady is a fascinating subject to me. And I'll be interested in hindsight to look back and see how it ultimately gets viewed. Like when he finally finishes, assuming I'm actually alive when he actually hangs it up. I mean, who knows? He might.
We'll all be gone.
Yeah.
We'll all be gone.
We'll all be gone, and he'll still be playing.
He will be the Milo Creighton of his time, without
there you
question.
go.
And,
but
the thing is too is to play in the NFL, you have to be an athlete. That's pretty much understood. Unless you're a kicker or a punter. And he does neither. Although he's had a couple of punts in his career, and he's pretty damn good at that too.
I was going to say exactly. And we saw how athletic the Chiefs punter looked. Well,
oh man!
I mean, Jesus, the guy looked like he was wearing a kid's small jersey, but that didn't really do him too well when kicking beyond 37 yards. So,
well, for the most part, we're not aware that the Chiefs have a punter. They don't punt very often, but they were forced to punt in this game because they couldn't pick up first down. So we got to know who the Chiefs punter was. Yeah,
hey, and he didn't play that well either. So, John, this is great.
No one did.
no one did. This was fun. I know we should try to get you back on later in this week because there's so much to unpack about this game that we haven't even talked about, and I do want to kind of get a look at what some of these teams are going to do in the future. But unfortunately, we only have about 90 seconds left, so that'll be enough for me just to finish up my spiel here. So, Thank you, John, for joining us. Mike, thank you for your words of wisdom.
I really started to get turned on by.
Don't worry. I'm working on an entire soundboard of just Mike's sound clips, so it'll feel like he's here all the time.
Yeah, John, it's great. I don't even have to be here anymore. You can just play these sound clips. That's it.
One more time, the Mahomes is the on pace to get for the GOAT conversation. I love this clip too.
Done. Finished.
Done, over, finished. Talk to me in 15 years. Maybe we'll reopen that door. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're going to be back tomorrow. It's Wednesday. Just because the football season is over doesn't mean our job stops here on FPC Radio Live. We're here all day, well, not all day, but every day, Monday through Friday, for all of eternity. Let's just put it that way. And you can hold me to that. Give us a follow on Twitter at FPC Radio Live, at Full Press Radio. Myself personally is at IGLEN31. John is at JohnSap25. Look for the nice fancy check mark next to his name. And of course, follow Mike over at MDABATEFPC. Folks, have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.